And how about Marchand? Sorry, guys, just Marchand when he gave a shot to Plekanec at the face-off circle.
Yeah.
Just a shot to the side of the head. Like, that was, I guess karma really came back to bite Boss. But, Carlin, you want to jump in here.
Yeah, well, Marchand got some questionable calls in Game 7, but that, again, was the hockey gods evening things out for all the ones he got away with over the course of the playoffs. But
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Bill is 100% right when he says that the players would not get away with this kind of thing 20 years ago. And the most egregious example of that to me was the Pittsburgh Penguins New York Rangers series. I know I didn't get to talk about it with you guys this week, but I want to talk about it now because I'm still fired up about it. When is the NHL going to protect its star players? Sidney Crosby got roughed up after every play in that entire series, and I guarantee you that no one, including his immediate family, has ever spent one frickin' dime to watch Brian Boyle play hockey. Could you imagine this kind of garbage happening in the NFL? Your Tom Brady's, your Peyton Manning's, your Andrew Luck's getting roughed up after every play? No, the NFL would step in because they're smart and they're the biggest dog in town. 20 years ago, it would have happened. The instigator rule was not around. Gretzky had Semenko and later McSorley. They would have settled his hash. Mario Lemieux had Kevin Stevens. Steve Yzerman had Bob Probert. The list goes on and on. With the instigator rule, it is now incumbent upon the league to take care of its star players, and they are doing an absolute shit job of it. If people pay money to watch Sidney Crosby play hockey, no one will ever pay one dime to see anyone on that New York Rangers roster, with the possible exception of Henrik Lundqvist, ever play anything.
Well, listen, I think you're being a little too unfair to the Rangers, but you have a valid point. But here's my point, okay? The Toronto Maple Leafs, when they had Gilmore, and Gilmore, I'm a big fan of Gilmore as a human being and as a player. He had Wendell Clark, but Gilmore, you know, he was very tenacious. He got away with a lot. Before he came to Toronto, he was not very well liked in Toronto, and then he became one of the favorite Leafs, which that's what happens in Toronto. But this is what I'm saying to you. Sidney Crosby, you know, I love him. Great player, but he's also very tenacious, and he does, you know, little shots in the back of the head. I watched the series. I watched Pittsburgh through their whole playoff run, and I watched them be very, 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 very dirty, especially Sidney Crosby in some of the plays. And I think that he is his own worst enemy. And it is what it is. You know, you're playing for your lives. You're playing to go to the next level. People, you know, Marchand, I'm going to just digress in Boston. Marchand, Sagan, they're total little rats.
Well, putting Crosby in the same sense as Brad Marchand is an insult.
Right? Sidney Crosby doesn't have to do that. Sidney Crosby's a great player. He's one of the best in the game. Now, I believe that he did not have a good year. He did not have a good Olympics. He did not have a good year. I think there's some issue going on with the Great One, and you cannot blame the Rangers for disrespecting Sidney Crosby, because throughout that whole series, Mr. Crosby had some pre and back end plays that came back to haunt them, and you know. He got retribution for some of the shit that he did.
I don't blame the Rangers. I blame the officials and the league for not protecting their biggest investment. I want to hear from Bill on this situation. Go.
Well, no, and a guy lost his job for what you're talking about, Carlin. Ray Shero spent 8 years in Pittsburgh and never got a sidekick to look after him. This kid's head got smucked by a stiff named David Steckel, and he was down on the ice, and I said to my wife at the time, this kid is really hurt, and there wasn't a player on the Pittsburgh Penguins that made a move towards him. And now he has to defend himself. And you don't go out and say, as Sidney Crosby might, say to Ray Shero, I need a guy to help me there. You never do that. You have to be smart enough to protect your best players. The league isn't going to do it. You've made that point. So as a general manager, you better. And if you don't protect your best player who has concussion problems, you are not a very good manager of people. And Ray Shero, as nice a guy as he is, missed the boat for 8 years, and Sidney Crosby's career will be shortened because of it. And Sidney Crosby had to do his own dirty work, and he wasn't very good at it. That's what Frank's saying. He deserves what he got, but he should never have had to do that. There should have been someone
100%.
there other than Chris Kunitz and James Neal, who wouldn't touch a soul, are scared skitty of any physical confrontation. They're busy scoring goals. Sidney can score them with his eyes closed. And I blame Ray Shero, and Ray Shero lost his job, and Dan Biles was going to lose his very soon. And part of the problem was they didn't recognize that in spite of the fact that Sidney Crosby can play in both ends of the ice, quite unlike Gretzky, that he still had to have some protection. And now
I want to throw something at you, Billy. Do you think it was a big mistake that the Pittsburgh Penguins got rid of Matt Cook? Because Matt Cook was courageous.
No.
And
he was, but he's sneaky fast. He wouldn't fight. He can't fight his way out of wet paper.
No, but he would come back into a payback.
Yeah.
You're right. He wasn't a Wendell Clark or a McSorley or a Probert. But he would come back and pay somebody back that did any dissing or to Sidney Crosby. And I think Matt Cook, for all the dirtiness that's associated with him, I think he was a very positive catalyst for Crosby's style of play.
Well, he was, but that's not what I think they needed, Frank. I mean, Matt Cook can run into people, and he can stick his knee out and annihilate you. He can hit you from behind and dislodge your brain. You only have to call Savard about that in Boston. But I'm talking about when Sidney Crosby goes on the ice, and he's got on his left side, a.k.a. Dave Semenko.
Yeah.
The guy that's playing the right side or playing in the middle ain't going to fuss with Sidney because he knows what's coming. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't there. And we may experience it next year. I don't know. But if we do, you'll see.
I'm just telling you, I agree with you. But I'm just saying, when Wayne Gretzky played, one of the best engineers and architects of the game and the world, right? Very smart hockey player. He never did any dirty shit. And I watched Gretzky a lot.
He never had to. He had Semenko.
He didn't have to. Whether it was his ability, whether it was his uncanny nature with the puck, whether it was his great vision, and the fact that he never came across the red line. I mean, he's a 90-foot player. He's not.
What I'm just saying to you is, I agree with everything you said, and I think maybe the thing that I've missed, and you've just made me aware of it, and now it's crystal clear. It's like an epiphany. Is that Crosby, the great Crosby, never had anybody to defend him, so he had to be tenacious and tough. But I think that it caught up with him because there is a lack of respect for him, and there was nobody to demand respect for their franchise star player. He got it back. So anything that he dished out, and I saw him dish out a lot of dirty plays from behind, behind the knee.
He had to defend himself.
I'm agreeing with you.
Superstar of that nature, whether it was Gretzky, the only one that could defend himself was Orr. Everybody else had a protector. Gordie Howe didn't need one, but you didn't mess with John Beliveau because John Ferguson was there. Simple enough.
Yeah.
And the psychological impact of that is substantial.